Hey, before we get started on this, I also just want to give a big shout out to Rocky Mountain ATV, and I appreciate their help by getting me these Tusk UTV seat heaters. And now let's get into the install. All right, to start the wiring process of this one and for the rocker switches, we're going to go into your interior panel, your center console. We're going to pry up all the pull tabs that you can see. Looks like there might even be a Torx down there. Pull tabs there. Pull the boot off through here, pull the bolt off, the boot off there, and yeah, Torx down there underneath the seats, and then pick that right back up, remove the seats, get that out of the way, and then we'll show you how to drill or to cut the holes for your rocker switches and to run the wires. All right, so once you get the seats out, you can see you get much better access to the Torx bolts. And for those that were curious, it is a T40. Just use an extension in your impact. Just remove those real quick. Make sure not to lose them. You got 4. And then you're gonna wanna pull these boots up and out of the way. Get them through there. And make sure not to lose your clips for the plastic, those retaining clips there. And if you have a panel pry tool, such as this, it makes a world of difference. So let me go ahead and get this removed, and I'll show you what it looks like. So once you pinch these, push them through the holes, same with the shifter boot, you can remove it, and this is kind of what you're left with. Now those who need to service their drive shaft or anything like that, now is the perfect time to do it. And if you're running the power supply to the battery, also remove this rear center console. That way you can hide the wires very nicely. I'm actually going to go up through the front and go to the accessory bar underneath the front hood and attach there. So there's my center console. I'm going to take it inside, clean it up, and show you how to cut that up. All right, now that I've got the panel cleaned up for the most part, that way my wife doesn't get too mad at me that it's inside the house, I'm going to show you a few things that you get when you order the seat heaters, at least from Rocky Mountain ATV. I'm sure it probably comes with them anyway, but so we did 2 of them. So we're doing the driver and the passenger seat, front passenger seat. You get a template here that gives you the cutouts for the rocker switches. You're just going to want to cut the dotted line here, and then you're going to want to cut out the stencil and then place it wherever you're going to put it. So what I've decided to do is you can either, put them here, you can put them here, you can put them back here in between the seats. It's all up to you, really. I'm actually going to stick mine right here. That way it's kind of out of the way of the water or anything that you stick in between the seats or anything like that. And it's just an easy access location. Nothing's really going to, bump it or anything like that. So I'm going to cut that out, tape it on there, and then show you how to actually cut it out with. All right, so I've got the dotted lines cut out. I've placed it roughly where I want it. And then what you're going to want to do is take a Sharpie. You're going to want to just draw around the edges to kind of mark out those lines. Just like that. Do the other side. Just like that. Remove the tape, and then you can see the cutouts there. So this one's kind of weird because this center line isn't really center with the console, and it's not really center with the cup holder. So I've kind of moved it over a little bit, so it might look a little funky, but I think it'll be a better position. And again, you can separate these out wherever you want. You can put one over here closer to the driver, closer to the passenger. I'm just going to stick with the template there, and then kind of match up the switches and see if I like it. If not, I'll kind of move it over a little bit. And remember, it's always best to cut smaller and then kind of sand it, grind it down a little bit bigger than to go bigger and not have it fit properly. All right, so what I'm using here is the Dremel hand wand tool with the plunge bit. And that's what I'm going to use to kind of poke holes through here and then just kind of cut those out. Let's see how well that works. All right, well, that actually worked really well. Like I say, make sure you cut them smaller and then go bigger. See, like that? Now I know that I need to go a little bit larger, and just kind of work your way around until it does pop through. Okay, now that I've worked this one a little bit more, you can see that we can push that in there, make it all nice and snug. You don't want it to fall through. But so if you go a little bit less, just so it's nice and tight, this surround here of the bezel will cover up any imperfections, any crooked lines or anything like that. And just like that, they're popped in. If you do the trimming good enough, the bezels again will hide everything, and you know, you can orient them however you want, sideways, up and down, you know, whatever way you'd like. So now that this is done, we'll go ahead and get on the razor and wire up everything for the electrical. All right, you can see I've got the wiring running through the tunnel here, zip tied to the other electrical to make sure it stays out of the way of the drive shaft. Here I'm going to actually use some self-tappers and mount the relays right here out of the way, and then I'm going to run the wires through back here for the seats. They're going to come out the sides, and then also for the switches it'll all be right here. And I will zip tie those out of the way, maybe up on this bar or something like that. That way it's nice and tucked away and doesn't fall down into the tunnel. And then for the front, if your razor comes equipped with the bus bar and the wiring harness, you got your accessory, your ground, and your 12-volt straight power. So yellow goes to accessory, black to ground, red to 12-volt. Simple as that. And then I zip tied everything up out of the way down there, attached to the factory wiring harness, and then came up through here and cleaned it up a little bit. Okay, so now that we've moved on to the seats, we're going to tear them apart from the frame. On this, it looks like the backing takes a T27. We're just going to remove the 4 bolts to get the back off. Make it a little easier, adapt it with the drill. Same goes for the bottom piece, except for it's not these 4 that you want to take off. They're down here in these holes here, and those are the 4 you're going to want to take off. Easy as that. All right, so now with everything removed, we're going to start working on the staples, pulling from the back up to the front. We're only going to go about to this point. That way there's not so much to have to put back, and we can leave the front all nice and factory tucked. Here we go. All right, now that we've got the staples removed, we're going to peel back the cloth. And when we do it, right here in the middle, there's going to be strips of Velcro. We're going to want to make sure we don't lift the Velcro from the foam. So we're going to want to gently pull the cover off, and then also roll it back and hold that Velcro down to make sure it stays in place. You can kind of, I don't know if you can see it there or not, but once we get it off, you'll get a better idea. There we go. So those are the Velcro pieces I'm talking about there. And if they do happen to come up, a little bit of hot glue, dab them back down, should be good as new. Now we'll go grab the heating element and fit that to it. All right, so now I've grabbed the heating element. We're going to fit it to the bottom piece here. Now, some people will recommend that you trim it down up front a little bit. That way it fits a little bit better. But from what I can tell here, if you actually wrap it around the front and get, you know, a little bit of the heating element up front so it gets inside of your knees, it seems to fit just fine. We may need to trim a little bit here and here, just to get it into the corners a little bit better down here, but that seems to work pretty good. And then once you get it fit the way you like it, you're gonna take some of this tape here and you're gonna tape it down to the foam. But I'm gonna clean the foam up a little bit so it sticks a little bit better. Like that. And then I'm gonna hot glue the Velcro pieces down to this tape. Perfect, with that done, now we can fold the cushion back down, making sure to press down tightly onto the Velcro and work your way around the edges, and then we can work on stapling it back together. Okay, so when we're doing the stapling, we're gonna wanna work from the front on our way back, pulling it tight, just kind of replicating what they had prior originally, but you want it to be a good snug fit. Doing a couple of staples on each side, and then working your way 3, 3, or 5, 5, whatever, and just working your way back. All right, with the staples in, wire tucked up out of the way, make sure not to staple your wire, but get it in there so it's nice and surrounded by staples, that way nothing can pull up on it. Check it out, make sure nothing's loose, make sure your Velcro's down. And there you go, easy as that. Now we can work on the backing. All right, so on the backing, there's gonna be a few different things that are different. You're gonna have these strips here that kind of hide the seams. You're gonna pull those up first to expose all the staples. And once all the staples are exposed, pull those, and then pull this back. And again, watch out for the Velcro in those creases. And that right there is about as high as we need to go to fit the new heating element here. Just like that. We'll probably trim the corners here diagonally so the Velcro up here will still stay exposed. And I think we should be good there, because once we wrap it around, this Velcro should be still nice and exposed. All right, so now we've got it fitted pretty good. I'm gonna tuck them in, make sure I can expose as much of that Velcro as possible, and then use some of that extra tape again to kind of do the edges, just to make sure that it helps seal. Put one up top here, maybe one down here at bottom. Now we'll tuck back the cover, pressing the Velcro down into the crevices as you work your way. Make sure it gets a nice snug fit. Wrap this around. Help guide it. Firm presses, make sure that Velcro really gets down in there. Flip it around. Now we can work on pulling it tight again and adding in some staples. And then when you're done with everything, you can put the seat back together. And you're gonna have the two wires coming out back here. Again, just using the 4 bolts. Front, for the back and the butt side. And then we'll work on the other seat and we'll get it back together. All right, so I've got the seats done. I'm coming back out here for the wiring. What you can see is I did some self-tappers here for the relays. Mounted up there, kind of secured them, make sure that everything's out of the way. Make sure nothing's like extremely tight. And then we've got the plugs for the switch. And over here, I've ran and zip tied to here the portions for the seat heaters, and they'll come out the side down here, plug in underneath, and same with over there on that side. So let me install the center console and get everything plugged in, and I'll show you that. Everything has been installed. There you can see the switches. Seats are in. Come back here. Zip tied up. I use dielectric grease for the connectors to keep things waterproof. And I made sure the connectors are kind of underneath the seat to help keep them out of the waters, out of the way. And now let's try it out. get things running. You can see hot and cold turning on. Let's see if they get hot. I wish the lights were a little brighter so you could tell, but you can kind of tell. And there you go, easy as that.